Woo. Hey guys, how's it going? Today we're going to be cracking a new series open. We're going to be turning bugs into baddies. Alright, and I found this random bug generator, which I'll have linked in the description, called Bug Brief, and it gave me the rhinoceros beetle. So I think just the basic rhino beetle is a little bit, I don't know, a little simple, kind of overplayed. Too many baddies already done with it. So I was doing my usual Googling, as you gotta, and I found the Dynastes Grantii, which I think looks kind of badass. Seen some baddie potential in this one. We got some cool color schemes. It's like a white, like light green with some black, and then a little bit of yellow in there as well. I think that's a pretty cool setup for a baddie. So I say before we do any sketching, we should look at some lore about the beetle first, see what we can incorporate into the design. So the Dynastes Grantii is a species of rhino beetle that lives in Arizona, New Mexico, Utah, and then a little bit of northern Mexico. And then the adult body sizes varies from 1.4 to 2.4 inches. And if they got a dumpy on them, 3.1 inches. That's what it's looking like. And then typically they're like a grayish white with like black dots everywhere, as we've already seen. And then at high humidity, though, they may turn black, which I think that's kind of cool. I don't know if we'll incorporate much of that into this specific design, but hey, maybe we can draw her again and we might get something else, you know? So for some feeding habits, they typically feed on the cambium of ash trees. And the beetles strip the bark from the small branches and feed on the sap produced. Pretty cool, pretty cool. And the lineage belongs to the white Hercules beetle lineage, which if we, use some context clues, that makes quite a bit of sense. Now, we are going to be drawing a baddie, so it would be a girl, right? So typically, the females don't have a horn, but we're going to be including one just for the extra aura that you get. We learned that from Nokotan. You need the aura from the horns, so we're going to be adding that up. So I prepared a little sketch right here that gives us something to design the character off of, I wanted to have a more simple pose. I'm not really sure if my brain can handle the responsibility of turning bugs into baddies, but we're going to have to give it a shot. So first off, we need the beetle, or we need the horn, and that gives us something to work off. So it has these little antennae on the sides, which I think we could incorporate that into the hairstyle here. So if we have it like swoop around, that has like the same effect. That covers the bangs. And they have like another horn on the back of their head as well. So I'm thinking of that as like a ponytail. We won't really be seeing much of that in this specific pose, but it also has an upper set of arms as well, which are kind of spiky. So I'm thinking we use that as some, I honestly don't know what you would call these, but like every anime girl has them. They're like the long front things. All right, so now we're thinking outfit, right? So they do have wings. So I'm thinking something more flowy to kind of like a cloak because of the outside shell. If we pull her up here, so I'm thinking more flowy because of the outside shell here, right? And obviously the color scheme is gonna be like dark browns and like greens, kind of more nature, I guess you could think. And then they are white as well. Like they have some color variation depending on humidity. So the lower humidity, the more bright they are, and the higher humidity, the more black they are, which I think that's pretty cool, actually. I don't know if there's like a practical effect to that, or if that's just like a side effect, like a cool debuff or something. But so it looks like the outside clothes would be green, and like green and white, kind of like a light, and the inside clothes would be like a dark brown. That's kind of what I'm thinking here. So I'm kind of thinking the kind of style of clothing where it's like this is their arm straight out, and it goes like it's tight and then really baggy, like that for the inside shirt, because they kind of have like the arms have like a bulge halfway through. So I think we can do something like that. I don't know. We're not really gonna be seeing a ton of that, I guess, but we'll see it here. At least let's give her some rings as well. She's gotta be dripped out. Actually, so we're gonna be doing 2 middle rings going into gloves that are split halfway. There we go. Because the whole arms are black. I like that dark brown, so I think that makes sense. And there we go. I think that's a pretty solid character design. I'm gonna add a little bit more detail here and there and clean it up a little bit, and I'll get back to you guys with some base colors. All right, here's what we're looking at for base colors. So if we bring up the bug on the side here, we can see the similarities, I think, right? So there's a lot of this like teal green, so use that quite a bit on the outside because it was all on the exterior. And their wings are golden, so that's where the golden accents come from. Horns brown, obviously. And then for the hair, since those were the brown and the green were like the most common colors, I decided to just mix them up and kind of use the theming of the horns, how it's like it starts out black and then it becomes green to have kind of like a dyed effect in the hair. So there we go. And then obviously we got the dots in the coat as well. So I say without any further ado, let's just hop right into the shading. And since we got like a more complicated design, I'm going to be going with a more simple lighting situation. So we're going to be doing just a strong top-down light, I think, today. Since there's quite a few layers and stuff that should help bring some stuff forward. We'll see how it ends up, though. Probably won't go too well. But yeah, sticking with, since they are an outside thing, because it do be a bug, we're going to be rolling with a blue, like cooler shade, because, you know, typically the shadows outside are going to be like a cooler color because the sky is blue. Since her head's slightly at an angle, here we go. I would like to say that's planned, it isn't. But hey, I'll take the credit for that. I'm not, and I'm still trying to make sure like the hair look like it has more layers. I tried to do that with an extra color, like a brighter color. And I think that turned out decently well. So I don't know if I'm going to continue doing that in like future drawings or not. We'll have to see. I might just forget to do it as well, because that's pretty common. And I see a lot of people, this is where, like an area where a lot of people kind of struggle, is the neck. And I struggled quite a while for it. But if you think, like, especially with anime proportions, right? If the sun's coming from the top, or even top left or top right, it doesn't really matter. Your base shade would cover up literally this whole area, right? Because it'd be like here if it's top left, here if it's top right. And since it's top, it'd be in the middle. With darker shadows, it'd be more directional. But especially with this first shade, like, just do a blanket color, keep the shape simple. Because you want the simple shapes to really just so you get like that lighting consistent, and then you can start adding complexity after you already have like a solid base happening. So I'm not quite at this point yet, but when you are more experienced, you can just hop right into it. Like you can just hop into the more complicated stuff, but we're not there yet, so we're going to be doing it the old simple way. And hey, if you're watching this far in the video, that means I'm assuming you like something that you saw. So hey, comment what you're thinking, hit the sub button, all that. Yeah, I'm really trying to make sure that this hair has layers, like how it actually looks like it has layers, just because I noticed a lot of my stuff, it looks really flat hair wise. Like I don't think that's necessarily bad, like I don't think it looks bad, but like it just isn't 3D, you know. And yeah, I feel like when you notice a issue like that, you should probably just fix her up, you know, while you're there. Okay, I think that's some pretty solid base shading. Just need to add a little bit more detail in like the hands, like the knuckles and stuff, and should be solid to move on to some darker and more complicated stuff. So I think I'm gonna move on to the skin next. I typically like to do the skin first. I don't know why. I think it's just like I don't know, it's just what I've always done, so I guess it's just a reflex now. Alright, so another thing I'm trying out is adding more color variation in my shadows. Because if we think about it, right, like the edge would have more orange, especially on skin. I think it's called like chromatic aberration, but it's where the edge of shadows, and this is especially true on like skin and stuff, where it gets a lot more saturated just on the edge, and then the insides are still cool because it's, you know, still a shadow. And typically what I did is just the same color all throughout, and I'm trying to add more like blues and stuff on the inside and then reds on the outside. So, you know, just trying her out, you know. We'll have to see how it ends up, but I'm not against trying to skill up every now and then. So the edges here, it'd be very blue. And this is kind of like the ambient light if we think of it like that. And since she's outside, it's blue. I think I already talked about that. I'm guilty of it sometimes, but I try to avoid just placing random colors down if I don't know what like specifically they're there for. Unless it's just like a style thing, because that's a little different. Alright, now I say we get a bright orange and see how this turned out. And we just have a tiny bit under the neck here. And then obviously the hands would still have it, right? I think that's not too bad. Let's do the body next. This should go pretty quick. Essentially, and we're going to be going back with like a reflection, so this won't be as dark, but we're just trying to push this back until a little bit later, because I like to go back over and just redraw it on top, so I can get the reflections and stuff right. It's kind of just a placeholder for shading, so we can shade around it real quick. I'm going to add some stitch lines real quick to the gloves. Yeah, and let's go one darker, really just to make it pop out. Because since the hands and the rest of the clothes are like the same color, I really want to make sure they have some contrast, and we'll be doing that with highlights as well. Just to make sure it's like the visual clarity is still there when we're all done. Because that's one of the other things I struggle with quite a bit, is making sure that you can actually tell what's going on in the drawing. Because I get like too locked in on the shading, and then you kind of lose sight of the stuff. Losing the forest for the trees, you could say. That wasn't too bad. Now let's go some hair. I believe that was the same color. I think the blue works pretty well. Because like for stuff like skin, since skin is typically like orange, you want like similar to that as a shading color. Not exactly, but if you have a blue, it's like a little bit too much. I don't know, it just doesn't like have that harmony. It like clashes quite a bit. So you can still use blue and stuff like that, but you just want to be like conscious of the fact that it might clash a bit. And I like to have little placeholder layers here. So like this is gonna be gold, this is gonna be top hair, just so I don't forget to do them, because that's happened quite a bit. So last thing you want to do is after you drop the video, be like, oh shit, I forgot to do like half the details that I had planned out. Or I used to forget glasses all the time as well. Like, bro, this is like the whole reason to do the characters have glasses. We're screwed. There we go. I say it's time. Do some eyes real quick. I don't really have many tips for the outside of the eye, where you really just want to keep it pretty simple, because the focal point's like the eye, like the center of the eye, not necessarily like the white parts. So it's like you don't need to really throw detail in because nobody's looking at it anyway. So let's see. So we're gonna have a very dark one. There we go. So I saw someone who did like a red highlight on the edge of their eyes. I used to do it. I haven't done it in a while though, so we might try her out in this one. What are we thinking? Is this the play or not? I think that's kind of cool. Let's just roll with it. See what happens. Normally all my liner and stuff is just black, but we can experiment a little bit today. I'm also going to have a blue in the eye because it will look good. So I say it is time for the gold, the reflection, and then the top of the hair. And similar with the rest of my shading, I like to keep my gold pretty simple. Typically, like the more I overthink it, the worse it ends up looking. So the less moving parts, the better here. All right, let's do the reflection real quick. So I'm thinking a decently saturated blue here. That might be a little too bright. I think something like this would work out. And we're gonna clipping mask that baby. And basically the point of this is like in a lot of the shadows to bring them forward and not make them so dark. Because if you look in real life, there's a lot of reflections from your ambient light. And in this case, it would be blue because we're outside. And really the more reflective of a surface, the more you would see the reflection. I mean, that's kind of obvious, right? So you wouldn't see it as much as you would in like hair and stuff as skin, because skin's not as reflective. We're going to be doing that a little later. So this gold here would have quite a bit because, you know, it'd be more reflective. And let's do some top reflections. We have some more extra strands in places. The horn would have more. The gold would definitely have some, because if you think about how reflective gold is, I say let's do some highlights and we'll be done, honestly. And again, I like to start with the hair for this stuff just because it's just how it be. That's all we need, I think. I say we just make a quick little background, and I think we'll be good. And if we think about background, right, we do have a decent amount of blue, so we could do a light blue, but we could also do like a light brown. And that's kind of immediately what I'm thinking of. I think like we have this color already in it. I think that looks all right? So what we can do is we can just do a little gradient here. That's just with an airbrush, and then one more brighter color. And try and keep in mind the framing of it as well, like how the character is framed and all that. I think that looks all right. And then I want like a more saturated on top. And then we can just go white. Get the whole guy, little frame. And that's a pretty simple background right there. Let's make that a little thicker. Okay, I think that's a pretty cool background. Pretty simple. What would that take, 5 seconds? Well, this is going to be the first in a hopefully long-running series of turning bugs into baddies. We have the Dynastes Grantii on the left, and the absolute baddie that we made together on the right. And before we sign off here, I think we should figure out what our bug for next time is. And it looks like the next bug would be the box filter bug. We'll talk about the lore and stuff like that in the next video, but I think that's all I got for you guys this time. If you like the video, hit the like. Want to sub, hit the sub button. That's all I got, so see ya.